Hello, good morning and welcome back. It's Terry. Welcome back to another edition of an Orchid A Day. Today, I'm going to briefly do a spotlight. And you've seen this plant a couple times, a few times now. It's relatively new. Let me bring it down a little bit lower for you. Over here is good. This is my Aeranthes. It's a cross of two species, I'm sorry. So it is a primary hybrid, grandiose, crossed between Aeranthes grandiflora and Aeranthes ramosa. There is the flower that you have seen a few times now, but this plant does have a long period of bloom. As I've said before getting in too involved with the plant, they bloom off of, well, as actually ramosa, the influence of the ramosa is what produces the long, wiry, thin spikes. Grandiflora, their inflorescence are shorter, closer to the plant, but they do have the same capability of, as long as they remain green, they will continue to bloom. So I have two of my resources over here, two of my Bibles, as I say, and this is grandiflora, which is a larger flower. Ramosa, more of a greenish tint to it, whereas grandiflora is more white, but can have some green to it as well. Grandiflora takes a little bit more light. Both of these plants are tolerant of temperature, have a wide range of temperature. Ramosa possibly comes from more of a cooler intermediate region, but in general, most Aeranthes, all Aeranthes are generally intermediate plants. When it gets to be in the high 80s, 90, or even in the 80s, low 80s, you really need to increase the water on the plant to prevent just dehydration. Just in general, in the summertime, while they are actively growing, they need watered every day. These do come from the rainforests in Madagascar, and this is the rainy season. You can see Ramosa's moss forests of Madagascar, constant humidity, reliable rainfall, and that's year-round. And when I say reliable rain, when it says reliable rainfall, that means every day. That means copious amounts of rainfall. These plants can take it. That's one thing that I had to learn from when I began growing angraecoids, was that I was underestimating the amount of water that they truly need. Rainforests in general, anytime you see that, that means in their growth season, copious amounts. So these are epiphytic, but they grow in the lower parts of on the trunks of the trees, so they're shaded in the summer from the heat and the direct rays of the sun, and in the wintertime they're a little bit cooler and a little bit drier, but they still are in moss, so they still have some moisture retention. I saw that book, well, we saw that book, and now we'll flip to Fred Hillerman's perspective. And this is what he says about Aeranthes. He talks about the sheer beauty as their place with the angraecoid alliance. It's from two Greek words, air, anthos, meaning flower, air flower. He talks about the characteristics, but we'll get to specifics. And here's grandiflora, as I said, modest-sized plant, inflorescent. Well, this says it's long, but there are different forms of grandiflora, but the ones that we see in the States here are not long. I suppose they could be if it's a well-grown plant. Mr. Daly grows well in a pot filled with, can be mounted, but does grow well in a pot with medium for bark sphagnum, coarse perlite. What does it say? Flowers under low intensities, which hints to that it's like an understory, not an understory plant, but gets lots of shade from lots of cover from the canopy. Does not like to be kept too dry. Temperatures are in the intermediate range, but could be successful in the warm house. This is grandiflora. So that is what he says about grandiflora. Now ramosa over here, ramosa. Moderate-sized plants, very fine roots, which I agree. Inflorescences are long and thin, pendant. Natural habitat goes epiphytic on tree trunks. I think that says moss forest. I think that's what that means. Fairly humid and abundant rainfall, flowers in February. Light range, generally more moist than angraecoids. Intermediate conditions. And it goes on to say more, but I think we've pretty much covered their culture and the habit of the plant pretty thoroughly. I would say if you have the humidity, number one, they don't require much light. It's generally humidity. You'll be able to grow these successfully. They do grow better with rainwater or RO water. They don't last, I would say, long term. The effects of water from the tap over time, I think, damages the roots to the point, or just the overall structure of the plant, that it just doesn't recover, it loses some of its strength, I would say. So I try to use rainwater on my Aerangus and my Aeranthes, much less so strict with the angraecums. But anywho, hopefully you enjoyed this video, and I will see you soon. Enjoy your orchids. Bye.